Hello everyone, and welcome to some Magicraft. The goal of today's video is going to be getting as many poison stacks as possible, because the Reaper set requires you to get 1500 poison stacks on a single enemy. Honestly, it's really not too difficult to do, especially if you can get to the end of runs where things start getting really tanky, but I'm gonna try and hopefully show off a method that doesn't require you to beat the run entirely, and doesn't require a whole lot of like meta progression stuff either. I will be using the summoner set, but it's not going to make a difference by the time we get our build set up and everything. I just like the summoner set for the start of the runs. And then I haven't unlocked any of the additional spells or anything either, so this will be something that you can set up pretty much right away when you start playing the game. I have unlocked a lot of this meta progression, which makes the run a lot easier, but none of this should be too relevant to the build itself either. So what we're going to go ahead and do with this video is we're going to try... I'm going to skip to the boss fight, or the final boss fight of the first and second stages. There's not really anything too interesting to show off in the early stages, since you don't have a whole lot of spells or anything. So I'm going to try skipping those, and then getting to the point of where there's more of a build put together, but I will talk about the setup for the first and second boss fights. That way there is still some sense of progression with the build. So anyways, I will see you guys in a second at the first boss fight. Alright, we are right outside the first boss fight, so we'll do a quick wand explanation. For my first wand, it's the basic summoner wand that the summoner set starts with, and then I just have a little bit of cooldown reduction and a passive where now all of the summons get connected by a cord. It also connects to me, and it'll deal some damage if enemies are in the middle of it. Nothing too crazy here, just a basic setup. For my second wand, I've got cost reduction, cooldown reduction, a lot of tracking. Both of these will help the spell track, which is going to be nice because Rainbow has a splitting effect when it fires off. So this will help all the projectiles hit at once. They're hitting the walls in this room, so it's not as apparent, but it'll be more apparent in the boss fight. And then here's another interesting mechanic that you can do with this game. There's a projectile called a fuse, where instead of, if I were to use the attack like this, normally, you can see that the spell ends up expiring before it makes it to the end. You can put a spell on, or a projectile on called Fuse, which will cast the spell to the right of it as soon as it hits something, or the spell ends, if it times out. So using this, we can do stuff like extend the range of projectiles that would normally time out, like we're doing here with Rainbow, or we can make slow projectiles, like black holes, hit a lot more quickly. So it doesn't look like we have quite enough tracking to make the additional hits from the Rainbow hit the same single target, but it is something you can do with a good enough setup. Either way, this extra tracking on the additional projectiles of Rainbow will help out during the normal enemy rooms. And this boss fight's going to go down pretty quickly regardless. So in terms of setup, we're looking for things like cooldown reduction, energy saving mode, fuse, so we got a lot of the things we need already. And then we also want a wand with a very low cooldown on it. And then this wand will also be helpful as well in general, since it gives all of my wands extra MP regen. We need really high MP regen and as low of a cost and cooldown on our spells as possible, which will make more sense as the build starts coming together more. Ooh, the replica gloves will also be really nice to have for this run. And then I don't think I'm going to mess with the reboot key It'd be interesting to do, but I have a really good setup already, so there's no point in doing that for this time. Anyways, I will see you guys at the next final boss fight. Alright, we are back at the main boss of the second area now. So I've gotten quite lucky during this run, and I've been able to put together one of the full setups in order to start really stacking poison. So I mentioned Fuse earlier, and it's a really important thing for this setup. For one, because it has a really low MP cost, and for two, because it does really low damage. You can have a real problem where you end up just killing the boss before you get your poison stacked up, so having the low MP cost and having the low damage are both huge benefits of doing poison stacking. Along with that, we have tracking. You can also put the automatic navigating on, but I find the tracking to be better overall. And then we have splitting, venom, and forced cooldown. Split will add extra projectiles after they explode or finish attacking, and then tracking will make all those projectiles home back in on the boss immediately. So we're getting a ton of extra hits this way, and then we're applying venom on each of those hits. And then the forced cooldown helps just cast as much as possible. If I had a 0 CD wand, which there are at least one of them, I could put something else there instead of the cooldown. So I'm pretty sure we can already get to 1500 stacks. As long as the boss dying might still just be an issue because of how much poison damage we're doing. But hopefully here in the second phase we can get up to 1500 stacks. If not, we'll easily have it in the next boss fight. So you either want to get a setup where you can cast fuses either extremely quickly due to having no cooldown, or you can make the fuses split a bunch of times somehow with stuff like splitting and tracking. Those are the two probably most straightforward and easy ways to set up that I've seen so far. These ones don't really do a whole lot for me right now, but I might as well replace my first one with this one anyways, and we might be able to use it later on in the run if we get a relic that gives us some crit or something. We could use crits from this fuse setup to activate something else. Alright, and now that reforging session is done, we've got our first wand set up here for... it's a similar fuse setup. I just use the extra slot in order to get more venom stacks. The second slot is auto-casting some rainbow projectiles for us, which will also poison, and then the third wand will be occasionally auto-casting some thunderstorms that split a whole bunch. This isn't going to be casting too often, but when it does, it's going to cover the screen with a lot of damage. And then we don't really have anything to use the crits for yet. If we get more crit rate, we could probably set up another poison build here with the fuses again. But for now, we'll just drop some fuses in there. For this one, I think I actually want to swap out one energy saber there. So this fuse setup for poison stacking isn't really very ideal for clearing out regular rooms. It'd be a lot better just to deal a lot of damage instead. But with the secondary wands we have set up, those can probably carry the damage for us. Taking the time to stack up poison in the regular rooms isn't really something that's too efficient, just because of how many different enemies spawn, and how often they spawn, compared to a boss where you have a lot of time to build up the poison stacks. You just kind of want to clear the rooms quickly. So I re-rolled my laser, But if I had, like, lasers or the most basic projectile that are also really low cost, I could throw them into my poison wand for this build, just to take out the normal rooms a lot easier. If we see another laser somewhere, that's probably what I'll do. Otherwise, we'll be more than fine with the wands we've gotten set up so far. We've gotten pretty lucky with getting everything I needed for the build set up right away. Alright, so after all the reforging stuff, we reworked this first wand into... It has double cooldown reduction, 1 thing of venom, it still has the tracking and the splitting, and then we're going to put the lasers in until we get to the boss fight. The lasers are going to do a similar thing, where they're really low mana cost, and then they're splitting, and the tracking is making all of the splits hit the same enemy, and stack a ton of poison together. And then once we get to the boss fight, we'll just switch back into Fuse again. And then this one's basically the same, I think, and we added the extra venom thing to this one down here. I don't think it matters too much which one of these has the venom plus. If we got another track, we could also try to do something like this. Because we are producing quite a lot of extra fuses through this. I think I might have to change... This wand would be, like, perfect if it had one more slot on it. As I'm running out of MP is the problem. We'll see how it works. But now you can see that with the laser setup, I clear the rooms a lot more efficiently than with the fuses. Because like I said before, it's better to just kind of kill things in the regular rooms. If you're taking the time to stack up poison on every single enemy, it's a lot less efficient. Unless you have some way to just, like, hit the entire screen at once, and you stack poison that way. So we do actually want the crit rate here. That'll be really nice with the wand we have. Normally I wouldn't take crit rate because it would, it causes me to do more damage, which could kill the boss before we reach 1500 stacks, but that shouldn't be an issue. That enemy had 500 stacks on it before it died. And that was just a normal enemy that I barely had time to stack on. That one had 300. Do I have another... I should change this to lasers as well. I really should have done that when I wasn't in the middle of a fight, but whatever. Yeah, having the fuses on there doesn't make sense if I have a laser instead, or another type of projectile. With builds like this, one thing you do have to be careful about is that some projectiles have a knockback on them. So if I'm spam casting them out so quickly, I can end up just, like, blasting myself across the room in some cases. So we could put multi-shot on this instead of having, like, another split or something. If we got another split, it would be good. And then let's move the energy cost here, I guess. This one probably isn't doing a whole lot. We can actually check. All of my damage is from poison and lasers itself. The rest of the ones really did not do anything that run, or that room. So, I want to take off the Thunderstorm again. I don't want any of my other wands to be doing any damage. All I want to be hitting are the fuses. And then again, we've got the first one set up with a ton of cooldown reduction. Venom. Tracking is very important, either tracking or auto-navigate. I think tracking is slightly better, in my opinion. And then you either just want like full cooldown reduction, or if you can get some splitting on there, that will help. And then for the second part, every time I crit, it's gonna charge up extra fuses, which will also do Venom. They'll have navigation, and they'll also multi-shot. So with this boss, he definitely should live long enough to get 1500 poison stacks. I think we already hit 1500. I couldn't... Yeah, he's at 2000 poison stacks already. And that's not even the... I guess he did go into the phase transition. For some reason I was thinking he healed his HP between phases. And there we go. Let's see the damage graph for that. 51,000 poison damage. And then the fusions themselves actually did 14,000, which is quite a lot. But it's mainly a full poison build at that point. Oh my. Charge efficiency of all wand slots, or all wand rear slots. And then it also charges for every spell we cast. This is going to be really good. So now we can stack something like bullets here. We can stack pretty much anything we want here. We go for full spreading bullets. We need another tracking though, is going to be the main issue if we do something like bullets. Cooldown reduction won't matter here. So the way that these secondary slots work is that... So they all have their own condition. In this case, it's critting for this top one. In this case, for the middle one, it's just for every spell cast. It'll charge 1.8 energy, and then once it gets to an energy count of the cost of the spell that's on there, so in this case 74, it will automatically fire off. So things like cooldown reduction don't matter here. All that matters here is the energy cost. So if we have something like cost reduction here, for example, it's going to be making this fire off a lot more often. And we duplicate the replica gloves again. Yeah, that's definitely what we're going for. This build has just gotten really crazy. And then we should probably just stick the other poison on here too. And then switch these back to lightning. So one example, I did mention it earlier, I can show it off. If I put the rainbows on here, for one, the mana cost is going to be a problem, but for two, look, it just knocks me back a lot when I'm using it. So if I could switch this to like a full mana cost reduction thing, and it would just be pushing me all over the screen. There is a relic you can get to help with that reduces recoil. We should be pretty crazy at this point. Oh, I think I misunderstood what my middle wand is doing in its post slots. I'll talk about that and probably fix it after this room. So yeah, if you were worried about, like, the builds looking way too overpowered, this final room or this final area, at least on normal, on hard difficulty there's another area after this. But anyways, this area is kind of the equalizer to really broken builds. Enemies here get pretty tanky. So I think, yeah, I think for this, it needs to be a spell cast by this wand itself. If I'm casting wands out of this, it doesn't seem like it's charging up the effect here. And that might also be the case for this. So I might not be getting my crits off. What is this? I've never seen this before. Oh, I have to... Okay, I have to connect them all in a certain way. I'm gonna cut to when I'm done with that, and then we'll be back. Okay, pretty easy puzzle, and for it, we do get an epic, which restores MP spent for the spellcasting wand when hitting the first an enemy for the first time. I don't think that's really... I wonder what it means. If it means, like, only the first time you hit an enemy, or is it the first time the projectile hits an enemy? If it's every time a projectile hits an enemy, then it would be a lot better, which we will be able to see as I start going into the room and casting things. That could be really effective, since I am having a hard time telling. I do see my MPs spiking a lot, so I think it's really hard to tell, because my regen is also just really high. We'll keep with it. I'm still running out of MP, though. I really like the design of this type of room layout, with the, like, clock hands going around that you have to dodge around. There's a couple I've seen that are like this.
I will destroy it with my own hands.
So we might need to change something up a little bit. I think this is fine, using this wand, and then I think maybe we swap out one of the... We swap out the cooldown for Energy Saber, and then we can just have it on constantly. We don't want to have as much attack speed, but we'll have more uptime. It's 29. So probably what I want to do is move it around like this, get myself a ton of MP regen, and then maybe we can also switch back to... No, we can't quite switch to double cooldown reduction. We still need the Energy Saber on here, but this should work a lot better overall. Ideally, I really should have kept one of the wand spirits or the auto-cast things for my other wands. I'm a little too far focused onto one wand at this point. Also, it's really unfortunate that the two wands that I have don't stack together the way I thought they would. I didn't realize that when doing the, like, secondary requirements, it had to be from the wand itself. So for my first wand, it's only counting the crits if I'm holding that wand, or maybe it's probably counting the crits that wand deals. So if I can get that wand back onto, like, some auto-cast stuff, I think it will start producing its own secondary effects from the crits. But if that wand itself isn't attacking, it doesn't feel like... Or it doesn't look like my... Oops, I switched wands. It doesn't look like the crits I'm getting from this wand count towards that. Otherwise, you'd be able to see it charging and firing up in the top left menu. Because this should have some crit rate, at least. It has 0? I thought I had crit rate from... I swear I have crit rate from a relic. Why do I have 0 crit? When did I get weakness? Did I get it from... that's weird. I don't remember taking weakness. I remember looking at it at some point, but I don't remember actually taking it. Okay, so a couple changes we made to wands. We've got resonance on the first one, which has been on there for a while, and we changed it over so it has multi-shot, poison, and laser. This doesn't need any of the tracking stuff, since the lasers aren't splitting like these ones are. And then it should also basically just have infinite MP, since it's not consuming MP part of the time, and the cost of lasers is so low. So these will be critting and hitting extremely often, and then setting off the thunderstorms, which also apply venom. They'll do a little bit of tracking. Actually, I don't think the tracking works. In order for the tracking to work, I would need to give the thunderstorm movement speed, so we might as well just put the tracking back, or the auto navigate back on there. If you get something that gives spell flight speed, then you can make the thunderstorms move and start tracking, but you can't start tracking before that point. At least that's what it seems like. And then we can change this to Butterfly Plus. We also got the cooldown plus here, so now we have an extremely fast attack speed, and we got another Mimic Cube, so now we have a bunch of MP regen stacked over here. So this one's at 37 MP regen. We can just fully hold down the skill, even with this attack speed. So basically, to sum things up, my second wand is built for full, like, cooldown reduction, cost reduction on the first slots, and then the poison, obviously. And then the second half of it is set up to give my wand a ton of cooldown reduction, or a ton of MP regen, I mean, while also, every time I cast a spell, it's charging up to fire butterflies for free, which are also poisoning enemies. And then the way that my first wand is set up right now is that every time I cast a spell from a different wand, it has a chance to automatically fire off the spell there, which is another laser. That laser is also tracking, applying poison, and it's also, as there's multiple lasers, they're connected by a little bit of chain lightning, which the chain lightning will also poison too, but it's not really doing much here, since the lasers just hit pretty much immediately. It's not getting like a whole lot of multi-hitting or anything in. To be honest, I should probably just, oh, I switched wands on accident again. Well, stuff died anyways, so I guess it doesn't matter too much. What I should probably actually do is switch out one of the splits here for chain lightning, and then we can put the split on here, even though we do have the tracking, so that's fine. The chain lightning will be way better on the butterflies because they spread out and they last longer. I don't know what I was hitting there, probably just some random thing that was left on stage. And now we should have a very strong setup between everything. I'll try to remember to do a DPS counter check after this to see what part of the build's actually doing the most damage. I think every game needs to have a DPS meter, at least games like this where you're build crafting stuff. It's so nice to have DPS meters and actually be able to figure out which part of your build is working and which part isn't, or which part of the build is doing the most damage, because when you have so many damage numbers going off at once, like this, it becomes very difficult to tell. One thing you have to watch out for in these stages are these blue projectiles that are coming out from these kind of turret things here. Those will freeze you and can get you killed very quickly if you get frozen near a bunch of enemies or projectiles. So here we're already at 2,000 poison stacks. We're not running the fuses anymore because we do actually just want we want the raw damage too. These bosses get really tanky, and I'm not any good at dodging them yet, so might as well just kill them. For the final boss, I might put the fuses back on, but I'm not sure. Did that say 6,000 poison? It did 6,500. I wonder if there's a limit, like 9999, or if it just keeps going really high up. So there's a couple enemy types in this area you have to watch out for. I'm pretty sure how they work is you need to be a certain range close enough to them to hit them. If they're too far away, like on the right side of the screen, you can see they're in like a ghost form, and they don't take any damage when they're like that. But once you start to walk closer to them, you will be able to see them again and they'll take damage again. Yeah, we might end up losing the run, despite how strong I am. The problem, I've never had a problem with my build being too weak in this game. I've just had a problem of skill issue. Especially with these enemies, it gets a lot more difficult. I would rather just be sitting back in the corner of the screen firing off stuff, but I actually need to be close to them. Which is good. I like the dynamic enemies, and I think there should be more of that type of stuff. Like, there's one enemy early on in the run that can reflect your projectiles if you shoot it at the wrong time. I like stuff like that. Yeah, these enemies are definitely going to be the death of me. I can't kill them quick enough to avoid getting this projectile spam on me. Which maybe I should have just played a lot more aggressive. I don't know, it's... The thing that gets difficult there is that, like, I'm trying to move away to dodge the projectiles easier, but at the same time, as soon as I start doing that, I can't damage them anymore. So I'm probably like... I probably put myself into a snowball effect there, where trying to dodge away from them in that manner was just making it where I had to keep dodging more projectiles because I wasn't killing them, and then it just kept, like, making a loop from there. But anyways, I think that was still a good run regardless. We were able to show off the poison stacking method. So like I said, either getting something with some kind of combination of really low cooldown reduction, really low cost, and then the poison stacking. If you can get splitting with tracking, it helps out a lot. Otherwise, you can just stack full attack speed or cooldown reduction and cost. And then you want to look for projectiles like fuse, the regular bullets, or lasers. All of those are really low cost and low damage. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think of kind of the editing style of cutting out a lot of the first part of the run, but still showing some of the early progression on the boss fights. And then showing off more of the later run, but still doing some cutting down in those areas. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.